Hi, I'm Sumit Patel, and in this video I will showcase a Citrix Delivery Center proof of concept environment as demonstrated at SAP Co-Innovation Lab Palo Alto. What we will see here is a demo of how a SAP application is delivered via Citrix Delivery Center. So we will see all of the Citrix products: Access Gateway, Repeater, Zen Desktop, Provisioning Server, Zen App, NetScaler, all of them integrated together to deliver a backend application, in this case SAP NetWeaver. All the Citrix Delivery Center components showcased here in this environment, along with the SAP NetWeaver application itself, were all implemented on a highly available and virtualized environment provided by Citrix Zen Server and Marathon Technologies. What we will also see as part of this demo is a disaster recovery scenario where we simulate a complete site failure and then showcase recovery from that site to a disaster recovery site using Marathon everRun DR product in conjunction with Citrix NetScalers global server load balancing feature. So let's get started. Consider the screen that you see here as a remote user's workstation. Now we will see how SAP is delivered to this user using Citrix Delivery Center. So the user first logs into the secure SSL VPN provided by Citrix Access Gateway. Now upon successfully authenticating against the VPN, the user is seamlessly presented with a web interface from where access to all his or her applications are provided. Now what you see here on the screen is a Citrix Repeater plugin, which is responsible for accelerating all WAN connections for the user. And this is important to provide a LAN type experience for the user who is connecting remotely from the WAN. So now from this web interface, the user launches a virtual desktop assigned to him, in this case a Windows XP desktop. And this virtual desktop is delivered by Citrix Zen Desktop. You can consider this as a user's corporate or work desktop image where he or she performs all the work from. This virtual image is provisioned dynamically using Citrix Provisioning Server, and it can be in either a public desktop mode or a private desktop mode, depending on the requirements for the user. Now from this Zen Desktop image, the user will launch Published Internet Explorer, connecting to the backend NetWeaver portal, and this web connection is accelerated by Citrix NetScaler. So now that we have seen how SAP NetWeaver is delivered, let's look at the second part of the demo, which is simulating a disaster recovery scenario and recovering from it. So say the user is connected to SAP NetWeaver, is working on it, making changes to data, editing data, and suddenly the entire site crashes due to some catastrophic event. So the user loses connection naturally, and there is a possibility of data loss. Now what we want to demo here is a disaster recovery solution using Marathon Technologies everRun DR product. everRun DR performs continuous data protection between the two sites, primary and a passive DR site. So in case of such an event, the user's connection along with its data is restored in a timely manner. So for demonstration purposes, we will create a record here which we will showcase how it's recovered during a DR scenario. So we are searching for a test user, which doesn't exist right now. So we'll go ahead and create a test user. What we want to showcase here is once we create a test user on this primary site, and after we simulate a site failure, how this record is restored using everRun DR product. Now let's look at the Zen Center GUI for a second, which is a Zen Server management utility. Now in this environment we have a primary and a disaster recovery site, each consisting of an instance of SAP NetWeaver. The NetWeaver on primary side is active, as seen by the running processes on this VM here, and the NetWeaver instance on the disaster recovery site is in passive state. And because we are doing continuous data protection using everRun DR, you can also see that the drives, the volumes on this passive instance are in locked state. So we see here on the disaster recovery site that the SAP instance exists, but the process is not running. And we also see that the volumes, disaster recovery site are locked because they are in lockstep mode as data is being written to them using the everRun DR product. Let's look at the everRun DR product. So this is the management GUI for everRun DR. Now very briefly here, what we do is we create a source and a target machine. We create replication jobs that performs continuous data replication between those two source and target machines. And in an event of a source going down, the target instance can be failed over, which will allow us to restore the data that was replicated. Now this replication is done at the application level, and which is what makes this product or this solution different than the SAN-based data protection solutions available. So let's go ahead and take down the source SAP instance and also take down the primary site for our demonstration purposes. So we'll go back to the Zen Center console and shut down the primary SAP instance without gracefully shutting down the processes. So also as part of the Citrix delivery solution, we have implemented Citrix NetScalers global server load balancing feature in an active passive state between the two sites. So in our demo, upon the primary site's failure, the GSLB will dynamically route the user's request to the secondary site without requiring any intervention on the end user side. So for demonstration purposes, the way we will simulate a complete site failure is by disabling the primary site on the NetScaler. So we'll disable the service that represents the primary site, effectively taking the site down. So now when we go back to the same remote user that we started our demo with, and when the user tries to connect to the SSL VPN, this request is dynamically going to be routed to the DR site. The user still uses the same URL, so no change from an end user's perspective. You notice it's taking a slight delay because it's going over a simulated band to the DR site. Again, the user logs in, and the way we have set it up is exactly identical as the primary site. So the user would get redirected to the web interface. For demonstration purposes, we have kept authentication as explicit, so you can see that there's a difference between the two sites. When the user logs into the Zen desktop, launches the backend SAP application, and now the user will search for that test record that we had earlier created, and you see that the data record is here, which is being replicated by the everRun DR product. Now there was some preparation work done in the background from the DR perspective that easily falls under the DR window that every company would have. Alright, so this concludes our demo as presented at SAP Co-Innovation Lab Palo Alto, and it really showcases how a Citrix Delivery Center along with Marathon's DR solution can provide a high available virtualized environment for delivering critical applications as SAP. Thank you all for attending.